15 years, the damage that load shedding has brought to this economy has been incalculable.
The death toll from the recent floods in the South African province of KwaZulu-Natal has risen to 49.
After a fairly subdued night, the Knysna fires have begun to grow again.
We begin tonight with the nation already on edge in the coronavirus pandemic as protests turn violent.
London's burning and no one seems able to bring it under control.
You're listening to Off-Grid Survival, South Africa's first prepper podcast, an OGS media production.
We are your hosts,
Brett
and Ben.
How's it, Ben? How you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long day. We're recording in the afternoon for a change as opposed to early morning like we normally do on a Sunday. But yeah, how's things been? What you been up to?
Work, gardening.
Gardening?
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. I got to play with a chainsaw for a bit. I had to play with a chipper for a whole bit. Is
that why your hands look like they do?
Yes. I didn't stick them in the chipper for anybody. It's just the wood kicks back at you sometimes. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's great fun. I feel like a truck ran over me. And today's been threatening rain, or maybe it's been drizzling.
No, we had rain this morning in Sedge, yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah. So what are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about meat and how to preserve it, as in the edible stuff.
What do you mean, the edible stuff?
Meat as in from an animal that we eat.
Oh, you mean not crickets?
Well, we've eaten, that's protein, but I wouldn't go as far as calling it meat.
Yeah, I know. And I'd probably leave them alive. I wouldn't go out of my way to preserve it.
Well, I've eaten crickets before. They've got a bit of a peanut buttery taste, yeah.
No, really.
You catch them, you take them by the head, you twist and you pull, and the head comes off and it pulls all the guts out with it. You pull the legs off and then you chuck them all in a pan and you pan fry them. And yeah, that's food.
Yeah, you say that like it's so yummy. No.
I did it on a survival camp when I was a kid, and it really reminds me of that old. It was I think a Prime steak ad or something like that back in the 80s, where you had a camp, and he's the survival instructors teaching all the people how to catch the crickets and how to cook the crickets, and then he goes round the corner, starts a little fire of his own, and pulls out this T-bone steak out of his bag, and he's sitting there busy like cooking a T-bone, and they're all eating crickets. It was, yeah, those were the days.
Well, I think I would definitely up my game. I'd catch the crickets, put them on a hook, and catch a guinea fowl or
a fish
or something. You know, I've heard of guys, what they do is they drill a hole in a piece of corn and they put the hook through and they throw a whole bunch of corn out for the guinea fowl.
Okay.
And you go fishing for guinea fowl.
Wow. Okay, I haven't heard that one before.
So, yeah, it's no, I'd be hard pressed to eat crickets.
Yeah,
I've tried dried mopani worms before, not my style.
No, I haven't tried mopani worms. Apparently they're nice, but that's, yeah, again, not something I would eat. If I had to, I probably would, but if I don't have to, I'm definitely not going to.
I thought they were pretty gross dried till I saw what they look like when they're alive, and there's no ways I'm squishing that into my mouth.
No.
It's I still wonder, one day if I travel, I'd dig to try, deep fried scorpion or that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it will just be like a try. Just to see what is available.
Insects aren't going to be a regular source of protein for us when we've got access to things like beef and venison.
Well, it depends if the people in the world get to do what they want to do. I'm trying to tell you, cow farts are destroying the world. They want to make us eat crickets.
Yeah, well, Soylent Green, here we come. That's all I'm going to say.
Who?
Soylent Green.
I don't know what that is.
It's a movie from the 1970s, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And everybody sustenance is this product called Soylent Green.
Yes.
And Soylent Green is people.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's I believe it's being remade at the moment, but yeah, it's.
I can't imagine how they'd pass through the the PC filter.
It was one of those post-apocalyptic movies from the 70s. They got away with a lot of weird stuff.
What was that other? What is a play or something? Is it Sweeney Todd's or something? Where he was making pies.
Yeah. Hopefully we won't have to get into long pork, but so I've put out a call on Facebook to find out from people what they wanted us to talk about with regard to meat preservation, and I also put out our new WhatsApp number. And I got a WhatsApp this morning from a lady by the name of Laura, who has been listening to some of our older episodes and sent us a slight correction from episode 16, 10 episodes ago, when we were, surprisingly, talking about food and food preservation. And she said she just wanted to point out that on our discussion on pressure canning, we kept referring to the method we use as pressure cooking. She says, in a sense, this is correct. However, there are two types of tools that are extremely different when pressure canning versus pressure cooking. In pressure canning, you must use a pressure canning pot. You cannot use a pressure cooker. The main difference in a pressure canner creates a much higher canning pressure and heat, which is what you need to kill the bad bacteria like Staphylococcus, as well as create a low oxygen environment so other bacteria cannot grow. So, yeah, thanks, Laura. I always thought that you could just do it in a pressure cooker. I have been doing more research since we aired episode 16 because I've been wanting to get into canning myself, and every time I came across, all the recipes for meat, they all kept saying pressure can, pressure can, pressure can. And I'm like, oh, but why can't I do a water bath canning method? And the main reason for that is that you don't get the temperature up high enough. I think it's got to be above 128 degrees.
Yeah, a water bath definitely won't, because water boils at
100 degrees,
at sea level.
Yeah.
So it won't get hot enough. But pressure cookers get significantly higher than that.
Because of the pressure, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what the pressure is. I know we would normally run, like in the Tedelex, run up to like a 1 ring. Yeah. So it pushes out 1 ring, but you could always push it up to the point where it's a lot higher. And I know the American canners, they've got different weights that they put on top, and the little weight needs to jiggle. That means that it's at that pressure as it comes out.
So she did send some pictures along as well of a classic pressure cooker like you're talking about, as well as a pressure canner. And the pressure canner has actually got like ring knobs on 6 points that screw down and hold the lid in place. And it's got a pressure valve. It looks like quite a serious... I'd hate for that thing to pop in my house. It's going to be like a bomb going off.
Those things, wall thickness are huge.
Yeah, no, it must be. It would have to be, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to buy one years ago, and I couldn't justify.
Yeah. I saw one on, somebody was advertising on one of the local prepping groups recently. They wanted a brand new one, never been used apparently, for $3,000, which was a really good price considering they're about 8,000 brand new. When you can find
that is a proper pressure canner.
Proper pressure canner, yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't have the money.
You didn't share the information either.
I thought I had.
Oh, likely story.
My bad. But thank you, Laura, for that. It was really great reading that review you gave, and we really do appreciate it. And thank you for the correction. And guys, if we make mistakes, please feel free to correct us. The WhatsApp number is out there. You can WhatsApp us anytime, and we will get back to you as soon as I normally get back from work that day. I'll answer the messages. And our new light has just gone off again. Apparently it's drawing a lot more power than we thought. But anyway, we'll leave it off for now. So yeah, let's get into talking about some different types of meat preservation. You are way more of an expert at this than I am. Especially when it comes to curing and drying of meats.
Well, I've tried a few different ways. I wouldn't say I'm an expert.
Compared to me, you are.
Well, I like following guys like Two Guys in a Cooler. Okay. He does a lot of different... He even does proper South African biltong, recipes and stuff. He's done pemican. He's done a lot of different types of, preserved meats.
Okay.
And I've done, what have I done? I've done pastrami.
Okay.
I've done obviously shelf stable bacon, and then not so salty bacon, also preserved and smoked. The last lot took some tri-tip steak and I salted it for 2 days just in salt. And I was trying that method, but also I bought some Fiasote. What's it called? The salt they use for animals.
Yes.
But it's
From
just,
the agri.
yeah, just normal salt. It's 50 kilos for $95.
Okay.
And I tried that, and so it was like a dual experiment. And then I smoked it for another 2 days, cold smoke. And yeah, I mean, you tried some.
Yeah, it was really good.
Was it short of salt?
If anything, it had a little bit too much salt. I don't use a lot of salt in my food normally, so for me it was quite salty. But it was definitely flavorful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
what did you use to smoke it?
well, you put it in a pipe, and you got to have like pretty strong lungs.
Long
and a
time of smoking.
Well, I built myself a cold smoker years ago, and because I'm very much a woodworker, I quickly got my brother to build me a cabinet, because I built him a cold smoker, and it was a deal,
Okay.
He does the woodwork, I do the steel work. So yeah, I use that, and I use wood chips. I do wood chips, cherry and apple.
Okay.
And then I add some mesquite in just for mozzies, because I like the more Karoo type smoke.
Okay.
And yeah, it really tastes, for me, it really tastes nice. I don't like hickory. Beechwood is all right, but I like the slight fruitiness, and when you add that to the mesquite, it's got a very nice flavor.
Yeah, it was very nice. We cut a couple of slices and pan fried them up.
Yeah.
And it's, I suppose, pretty much beef bacon.
Yes.
And it was an enjoyable flavor. It's something I would eat again, definitely. It's not something I would go, okay, I've eaten it, I'm not going to try that again.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I'll have again.
What we did, and I gave some to my dad as well, is you just take a block and you slice it up, and then you cut them into smaller pieces and you fry them off, and you add them to your stew. And don't put any salt in your stew. And then it really makes the meal pop, because it has all that really intense smoky flavor with salt and beefiness and stuff. So it's I enjoy it.
No, it was very nice. And so I noticed that on that piece that you gave us, it still had quite a bit of fat.
Yes.
So obviously that would be more for a shorter term storage, because you don't want fat going rancid, or am I?
Well, it's like with biltong. The fat doesn't, and biltong has way less salt in it than that piece of meat. I've never seen any. Well, it might be because biltong doesn't last that long, but generally,
Well,
the thing that's going to get your biltong way faster is if it's not that dry down at the coast, it molds.
yes.
It doesn't have the chance to go rancid. And I mean, I don't like biltong with no fat on it. It's harder to do with venison, because there's not much fat in venison. Well, the venison that we get in South Africa.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a possibility, but a lot of people store stuff in fat. There's cultures around the world that ferment fat.
Okay.
So I saw one that they take pork fat. I can't remember what country it was, but they take the pork fat and they salt it, and then what they do, when it's salted enough, then they cream it, and it's raw pork fat.
Okay.
They cream it up, and they make it like a spread, a fat spread.
Okay, nice. That sounds actually quite interesting.
Yeah,
Almost like a ghee, I suppose.
yeah, kind of, if you think about it. But it's not cooked at all. It's all raw. I saw another one. It's called was it Wilderness Cooking. He sits in Tajikistan or something, and he did a thing where he took lamb legs and he salted them as well in a huge amount of salt for a few days, and what he takes it out and he washes it all off, and then he cooks them up and he cooks them down, and it's a way of storing the things, because you can just
You just hang it, yeah.
you just hang it up. It's salted,
Yeah.
and not much eats it or attacks it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, with regard to that, I actually let me see if I can try and find the post. Somebody did respond on Facebook asking about how do we stop flies from gathering on our preserved meats. Any ideas there?
Well, if you're making biltong, generally they use, obviously you got your salt and vinegar for your preservation of your biltong, and then when it's hung up, it's normally coated in coriander and pepper, and part of it is for flavor, but part of it is it keeps insects away. So, and then it's hung in a cooler place, and I've seen a ton of things hung on farms, venison biltong hung on farms in an open shed, no fly nets and all that type of stuff.
Okay.
And there's animals around, so there's flies.
Yes.
And the flies just don't come near the biltong.
Okay. Yeah, because that question was from, and I'm going to, unfortunately I might butcher this name a bit, Tutsirai, who said, how best can we repel flies when drying meat in an open space without a dehydrator?
Well, I've seen in Canada they used it. In America, when they make the original jerky, they cut the meat thin, and then they hang it over racks on like a tripod, and they put leaves around, and they make a little fire at the bottom that smokes. And again, it's not to smoke the meat, but the smoke keeps stuff away. And if you've ever been braaiing and you're standing right where intelligent people stand in the column of smoke, you don't get bitten by the mozzies.
Yeah.
But as soon as you're sitting down with your beer, watching the person braai, you're getting munched by the mozzies.
Yeah.
Because the smoke helps keep all the insects away, and they keep it away from you as well. And so smoke is one of the ways. Having an environment where things can't get to it. So what we used to do is, like down here, when we shoot springbuck, we used to hang it up in a windy area, and to prevent flies from getting to that, you take like this netting, curtain netting. So, and you make like a mozzie net around the carcass, so the flies can't physically get to
it, yeah.
And it can't touch the meat anyway, because they'll lay their eggs straight through the net, and then you'll have maggots in your meat.
Which is the last thing you want, yeah. Because you're trying to preserve the meat, not give it to some other creature to eat.
Unless you like maggots,
Yeah, and you don't
Each to
even
their
you don't
own.
even want to eat Mimpani worms, so I can't see you eating maggots.
No. And so it's quite interesting, and this is why I'm trying different ways, and I like to see how the people do stuff in the different ways of doing stuff in the world. I saw the one where the guy cooks a whole bunch of meat, and then he adds a lot of fat to it, and then he takes a cow stomach, cleans it out, and then when all this meat and fat is cooked, he piles it all into this cow stomach, and then it solidifies, and that's his meat for the journey. That's his food for the journey, and the fat helps preserve the meat.
Isn't that kind of like pretty much what a haggis is? Although I think there's a lot more things in a haggis.
Yeah, I think they're not using it as a. You see, this guy is using the cow stomach as a bag, like a sterile black bag.
Yeah.
Whereas I think haggis, you actually eat the whole lot.
You cook it in there, yeah.
Yeah, so it's and this is how they do. I mean, brawn's done like that. There's a lot of different ways of doing meats and stuff where you have a fat layer on top.
Yes.
To preserve it.
Well, I've noticed, going back to the pressure canning, that whenever you see pictures of pressure canned meat, there's always a layer of fat on top. And that obviously forms a barrier between whatever little bit of air is still left inside the jar and the meat.
Yeah, you'll have the fat, you'll have whatever liquid is there, any collagen and stuff that's cooked out like this jelly will help solidify in it and hold everything basically in suspension.
Yes.
Till it gets hot enough to melt.
Yeah, I'm really keen to try it because, like I said, I was doing a lot of research. I really thought I could get away with just doing a water bath and boiling it, and I wanted to try with normal mincemeat, and I wanted to try some chicken because the price of meat is just almost weekly going up nowadays, and I was I had jars ready, everything I was going to go, and everything I came across said it has to be pressure canned, and apparently the main thing that they're worried about is botulism, which will really mess you up big time.
Yes.
So yeah, I've put my canning dreams on hold for the moment until I can afford to get myself a pressure canner.
Well, I reckon if you use a water bath method, but you have cooked your food in a acidic environment,
yes,
so make a spaghetti bolognese type.
So that's what everything that I came across said. It said that because meat is a low acid product, if I can put it that way, you've got a higher chance of things like botulism. If you're using mince, you make, like you just said, a bolognese style. They even recommend adding vinegar to the bolognese, just to increase the acidity, because the tomato might not be acid enough.
Well, if you use tomato paste and all that type of stuff, puree, you get up there, you actually have to add some sugars normally just
to bring it down.
Yeah. But if you're going to preserve it, I wouldn't add the sugars yet.
No.
Because it'll just fuel whatever is wanting to try and grow.
So that's obviously one way of preserving meat from a canned point of view.
Yeah.
Apart from the drying and the curing that you've been talking about. And another way of doing it, which I haven't yet tried, but I'm very keen to try with my dehydrator, is you get incredibly lean mince. So I was talking to the butcher at work about it, and he recommended a silver side, and you mince that up after taking all the trims off. So you've got very little fat content. And you grind that up and you cook it like you would normally cook your mince. You can add a little bit of spices and stuff if you want to. No oil, no other fat added to it. And whatever fat is still in the meat will cook out. And you pour that off, and then you take this now cooked mince and you put it onto Colton paper or paper towel, and you dry it out even further as much as you can. Once you've done that, you can then put it into your dehydrator on trays, or if you've got silicone mats or something like that, and you take it right down to as dry as you can get it. So it's actually it's crumbly, it's crunchy. And apparently that can be shelf stable for up to 5 years if you store it properly.
But here's the thing: is like all the people that say, well, you have to take all the fat out, and then you get pemican, which is super dry meat powder and properly dehydrated fat. So heated to the point where there's absolutely no, so long enough that all the water is out of it, strained off, so that it's pure fat. And that has guys reckon 20 years.
Yeah.
And in 20 years, it should be this rancid pile of goo, according to some people. Yet what they've done there is removed all water. And
they've rendered it down,
water is what's going to make your fat rancid.
So they've literally rendered that fat down before using it. And I think that the rendering process is what makes it safe for storage.
Well, rendering just literally is you you remove all the oils out of the solids and you drain the solids, and you keep doing it till there's absolutely no water, nothing.
Yes.
If you heat your fat up to, you call it cooking temperature, and it's going there's water in it. That sound is, and this is what makes fat so dangerous, is that sound is water steaming. When fat is completely dry and it is at like seriously scalding temperatures, you don't know it's hot, short of it smoking.
Yeah.
And then you put something in, and basically the water explodes as you put the whatever's got water in, and that sizzle. Now, if it's a little bit in a pan, you'll get that nice sizzle of a good steak hitting the pan. If it's a turkey baster, like a turkey fryer or whatever, the dump a turkey in, and all that oil suddenly gets shot out by the steam getting generated by the hot oil. And that's what makes oil so dangerous, is it when it's properly dry, it doesn't give a huge indication that it's hot. You can see in a large volume of it that there's a convection happening, so it turns, but it doesn't have that same boiling effect that water does. And if it is boiling like that, then there's too much water in your oil.
So, we had another question in from Richard at Rich Wins Firelighters. And he goes, "Hi guys, can you offer info regarding preserving chicken and pork? Is it feasible? Thank you for the interesting show." Thanks, Rich. Yeah, chicken and pork, you can long-term store it. The canning method we were talking about, using a pressure canner, guys use chicken and pork all the time with that. I've had chicken biltong before. It's one of my favorite types of biltong, and you can take that very dry.
Yeah.
And you get chicken bacon, or you get turkey bacon in the States anyway.
Well, I mean, pork, that's what they used to pack in salt.
Salted pork,
Yeah, and you do salted pork, so packed in wooden vats, and so the guys on the ships could eat.
Yeah.
And I mean, bacon was a result of preserving the cuts of pork and smoking it so that it has an extra layer of protection on it, and people just started liking the flavor of smoked stuff. So eventually now modern bacon is not smoked a lot of times in the same way. It's a flavoring added to it because we like it.
Liquid smoke.
Well, I have got liquid smoke. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
For if you're not having a braai and you want to still add a little bit of something to the taste.
Yeah, and then I'm just trying to think of some other meat preservation. That method you were talking about that you did on that tri-tip, how much salt and stuff did you use on that?
The tri-tip, all the salt.
All the salt.
Well, put it this way, I salted it for 2 days.
Okay.
I moved it around, poured off liquid. The liquid that comes off is whatever comes out of the tri-tip, and so it's got a salty, or like seriously saltiness. The one thing I did try when I washed the tri-tips after salting it is I washed the salt as well. So you put water in the buck with the salt and you mush it around. And
doesn't that dissolve the salt?
Not as fast as you think. And it's a way of reusing the salt. So you keep pouring it off till the water stays clear. And then you dry it as good as possible. And then what I did was stick it in the oven in a non-plastic container. And you basically dry your salt. So you raise the temperature hot enough that it kills any bacteria that might survive in the salt. And then you have salt that you can, whatever's left over, you can reuse again.
Okay.
And it was a method I saw one of the guys online showing, so that when you're using rock salt, because the salt I'm using is not fine salt, it's coarse rock salt or coarse sea salt, and that doesn't dissolve very easily. It's like one of these jawbreakers. Sugar dissolves in water.
Yeah.
You stick a jawbreaker in your mouth and you're going to be sucking on that thing forever because it doesn't dissolve as fast as you think it does.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's why a lot of people will put like 3 or 4 teaspoons of sugar in their coffee, and after they drink their coffee, there's still a whole bunch of sugar at the bottom, because it's got a certain saturation level.
And then after that, so you salt it, and then you just leave it like that, you say, and then you wash it off.
Well, what I did was wash it off, and then, funny enough, I added salt to the outside, and coriander, pepper. I think I did paprika, that type of stuff on the outside, and then I hung it up in my smoker and I smoked it. And mine's a cold smoker, so it technically a cold smoker doesn't go over 30 degrees Celsius, and so mine was. And my smoker is got netting over all the holes, so it does vent smoke out. You're not trying to keep the smoke in; you're just trying to create a smoky environment. And that smoke sits on the surface of the meat, creating I can't remember what type of environment it creates, but it does help preserve the meat as well. But it gives a really, really nice flavor. Yeah, it gives a really nice flavor to whatever you're smoking. I've smoked salt before. And so
that's quite a popular thing.
I took Himalayan salt and the finer and put it in a pan. And while I was smoking my meat, I just put the salt in there. And every now and again, you just run your fingers through the salt, and you change the contact area on the salt. And then if it's picked up any moisture, you put it back in your dehydrator and dry out your salt, and then now you've got nice flavored salt,
smoky salt, which is quite expensive. Last time I saw it, I think it was like 100 rand a box nearly.
When you start looking at these finishing salts, flaky salt and this and that, if you're industrious, you can buy cheap salt, put water to it, then concentrate it, like heat it up to it starts concentrating. Then put it in your dehydrator and dehydrate it so that the liquid forms flakes. It'll dry out to flakes. Or, the guys do different ways to get different finishing types on your salt. So some people want the flaky look to it. And I'm not that fussed as long as it's salty.
Salty salt's always good. Okay, and then I've made biltong maybe twice in my life. The first time was a mitigated disaster. Second time was a little bit better, but only because I used Jack Daniels with it.
For yourself or
For both.
Okay.
So I did we won't talk about the first time, but the second time I did, instead of doing like a dry rub, I used a vinegar and I added equal parts Jack Daniels to make like a marinade effect, and to pull that flavor of the Jack Daniels into the meat. It was interesting. It was also very expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'll be doing it again. I'll rather buy biltong from work. It works out a lot cheaper. But it's fun to make your own, I will say.
Yeah, you probably find if they do Jack Daniels biltong, you'd be still cheaper buying it and making it yourself.
Yeah, no, they don't do Jack Daniels biltong at work.
What failed on your first attempt?
I can't remember. It was a long time ago. It just didn't taste good. I don't think I had enough salt.
Okay. Well, having enough salt and then enough vinegar, those are the two components you need when you're doing it. Everything else is flavor. And the guys use a Worcester sauce and they use whatever else to add to the marinade.
Yeah.
And my dad always used to do the venison biltong. We had like a bucket with, what was it? A black bag in it.
Okay.
And then you cut the strips and you take the marinade, stick it in like a sprinkle, like basically like a 2-liter bottle with holes punched in the lid. Yes. And you put sprinkle some down, and then you put your meat down in a layer, sprinkle some down, put your meat down, and you keep doing that till you got to the top of your bucket. You close your black bag up, seal your bucket, and you leave it stand. In a day's time, you flip your bucket. So all the liquid that's now being pulled out of the meat is pulled in the bottom. So as you flip it over, it starts draining through again. It's picked up all the salt and the vinegar, and then it starts also drawing back into your meat.
Okay.
And so what happens is the salt and the vinegar, the acidity penetrate your meat. And I think it's a 2-day or 3-day process or something. I can't remember how long. I was also young. I'll try to find out from him. And he's probably listening. He'll probably tell me what he did. But once it comes out, you've got your rubs, So then you take the piece out, you put it on a hook, you pat it in your spice, and you hang it up, and that spice is sitting on the surface.
Okay.
And that also draws in a bit, but it sticks and dries on the surface. It adds flavoring, but it also adds the insect repellent part of it. And then you go and hang all your pieces up and it dries. Yeah. My brother did biltong in the UK. At one stage he was there. He had to buy some, from the Rand's point of view, really expensive beef.
I can only imagine.
And what he did is he took a box, put it on his counter, and made a little hole in one side, put a light bulb in the box. So the old incandescent light bulb.
Just to give that little bit of heat.
And what it also does, that heat generates airflow.
Yeah.
So the heat goes up and the cold comes in from the bottom. So it's constantly cycling. And so he actually made himself proper biltong in the UK.
Yeah.
In a not conducive climate to biltong.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that chicken biltong. So I first had chicken biltong, probably about 20 years ago. First time I found it was at the old Peregrine Farm stall up at the top of Sir Lowry's Pass. And it's normally like a chili biltong. So they add quite a lot of spice to it.
Is that so you can't taste the salmonella?
And it's always done with chicken breasts.
Yes.
You never see anything else, but that's obviously because of the size of the piece of the meat. And I've had it where it's been still moist before, and I've had it where it's almost bone dry. And I must say I prefer the very dry version. I like the chewiness of it, but the flavor is really good. But I'm not sure how long you could safely keep that. Normally with biltong and stuff that you buy in the shops, it's like a couple of days.
Well, it all depends, again, how dry it is.
Yeah.
We've had biltong hanging up for weeks, in the Transkei at the garage, and we will get the pieces got portioned out to us, a little bunch of piranhas, and it had to be done like that because we would run through that whole entire stock of biltong like one time.
And sorry, that brings me to a question from Tracy.
Okay.
Who said, once prepared, how do you stop yourself from eating it all?
Same way you stop yourself from eating all the chocolate. Hide it from yourself.
And willpower.
No, hide it from yourself. Or have somebody else hide it.
No, good. Dude, like we're South Africans, biltong is like our go-to. So if you have biltong in this house, if it lasts 2 days, it is a long time. Even hiding it, I will sniff it out. It's like, oh man, I love biltong.
Chinese friends of the family, and their son grew up around us and with us and stuff. And when his parents were working, he lived with us. And his dad was telling me the one time is he loves biltong because they spent many years living in South Africa. And so he bought biltong in South Africa to smuggle back to China so they could show the people there what they were missing. Yeah. And he said, now he got this sliced biltong and he hid the thing in his jacket, and now it's obviously body heat and stuff, and made the oils come out of the fat,
Yep.
So it got a bit. So by the time he gets to that side, the people there didn't understand what he found so appealing about this really oily mess in the plastic packet.
Oh my goodness! Now I remember also years ago, my dad went to go visit his brother in Australia, and he took his brother 2 kilograms of biltong. Got to Aussie Customs, and they went, there's no way you bringing this into our country. They've got a whole foot and mouth thing. You can't bring any animal products into the country at all. and they wanted to confiscate it. And my dad's like, no, man, you can't confiscate that. And he sat down and he ate 2 kilos of biltong at customs.
I would too.
He was not going to give that away to some customs official who had probably got in chowed himself.
Yeah. What's interesting around meat preservation is we have a South African taste.
Yeah.
Our taste buds are built that way.
Coriander and salt.
Yeah, coriander, black pepper, salt. So our droewors has that flavor, our boerewors has that flavor, our biltong has that flavor. When you go like American jerky, like the modern jerky,
Yeah.
it's like candy. I made some according to American recipe and stuff. I did 3.2 kgs of top roast, and I made proper jerky. Oh my word! Talking about willpower, Tracy would battle hugely, because this is like opening a can of sweets, and it's sweets that taste like beef. It is awesome. And then I've also...
what was in the recipe that made it so sweet? They use a lot of brown sugar and stuff like that.
Sugar.
It's typical Americans. Eh? Everything's so sweet.
Well, this is their way of doing it, and it's dried at a very high temperature, so it's almost cooking.
Yeah.
But it's not cooking, but it's almost cooking, and it's their thought process around how, and they can't understand. I saw an American trying biltong on YouTube, and he, in his mind, he can't understand the flavor.
Yeah.
I saw a lady making, I think, what was it, Korean style droewors.
Okay.
But like a fermented, like we do a cabanossi or a, what was the other one? Salami type thing. And what they do is add sugar to it, the mince. And then they put it, and she hand chopped and hand stuffed it in the skins. And then she hangs it up, lets it ferment. And so their meat is like sweet.
Yeah.
And it's just weird.
Oh, it's not something I would ever like. Meat is meant to be savory, not sweet.
Well, again, it's all to do with your palate.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of the, in our thing, like fruits are sugar coated, they're dried, and all that type. So the fruits are the dried fruits and preserved often are very sweet. And I've had a few things from China where the fruits are salty. And it's like, it tastes lovely, but it doesn't compute, because that's not the flavor that we associate with like dried fruit.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting.
So you mentioned just now cabanossi and salamis. Have you ever made those yourself?
No, I want to, but like with the salami, you need to have a humidity right. So you need a cabinet with a proper temperature and humidity, so that one, it's not too wet and it's not too dry. If it's too dry, it makes a hard skin, and then it doesn't dry out in the middle. So the middle doesn't have a proper chance to cure correctly or something.
Because I've seen pictures and stuff in Europe, and some of those salamis hang for ages.
Well,
months, years.
As far as I know, the proper way to make, is it Parma ham? Pancetta or Parma ham? One of them is, it has to hang for at least a year.
Yeah.
And they go into these things,
pancetta, I think,
Yeah, the whole, what is the whole boat of the
leg.
Yeah, the whole leg of the pork is hanging up, and each one gets a stamp or however from whoever raised the thing, and you walk in and the thing's got molds and everything growing on the outside, and the guy's like, nah, those molds are fine, it's this color and that color, this color you don't want to see, and then they go, and they have a special way of getting all the blood out. So when they're prepping it, they cut it in a certain way so that the vein opens, so that they can actually press all the blood out of the leg before it goes into the salt.
Yeah.
So you don't have those weird flavors in it and places for germs to grow. And it's very interesting. And if we go into a more, I know where I live now, this morning the power just went off for no reason. We haven't had lightning strikes, rain, hurricane, whatever else, just no power. Yeah, we have a government, yeah. So having the ability and the knowledge to be able to preserve whatever.
Yeah.
We're talking about meat. So, and then do it so that you do it more often. So if you find a way of preserving something that will enhance your eating experience. So like biltong, for argument's sake. You walk in and you find top roast for 86 rand a kilo.
Yeah, I wish.
Okay. But
yeah.
So now what you do is you can either go stick in your deep freeze, or what you can do is you go, okay, that is a good price, very good price, and you go make yourself 1.6 kilos of jerky or 1.6 kilos of biltong. Now, the biltong and the jerky you can use in a normal meal.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to adapt your cooking method.
Have you ever had a biltong pie?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Very thinly sliced biltong in gravy sauce in a pie with some potatoes and stuff. Very, very nice.
What we used to do often, and I'm sure you've had it before, is like a powdered biltong.
Yes.
And so you put your cheese spread or your whatever on your bread, and you put powdered biltong on top of it, and you can have it on your pizza, you can have it wherever.
I used to use it in potjies. Yeah, just adds a little bit more
Beefness.
Depth of flavor. Yeah.
So it's just basically powdered beef stock without the stock part.
It's powdered beef. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of different ways, and the more you use the methods you find interesting and you find flavorful. So like canned goods, if you want to do water bath canning, find the things that are safe to do and start practicing it, and do it in such a way that you use the products. And the more you experiment, the better for you.
Yeah.
And everything I've checked was the guys are like, don't can something for 20 years, 10 years. Can it, put it down, let it cool down, open it and taste it. And you do small batches to find what you want the flavor to be, because the flavor you cook with isn't necessarily the flavor that it's going to be after you can it.
Yeah, you need to experiment. And like with anything we do, you have to experiment until you find the correct ratios of salts and sugars and stuff that work for you. It's pointless putting food away for long-term storage that you don't like. It's like, I am not going to, I've said this before, I'm not going to be putting away sardines because I don't eat sardines. It's pointless for me putting them away, except maybe as trade. But when it comes to making stuff and going to all that effort to do canning or making jerky or biltong, have something that you like. You know, it's got to be a good flavor. So yeah, no, definitely.
Well, that's one thing I do like, bokkums, West Coast bokkums.
Nope.
What I've heard is that the bokkums that guys make from the South Coast here, the garden root, the mullet from here, aren't the same. The texture of the fish isn't the same. So I don't know. But again, I might not do that all the time. I don't eat a huge amount of fish. I like oily fish, and I don't get to catch them often. But when you try it, well, in your case you can't, but in my case, if I find a method that works, okay, once I have that method, it's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
I can apply it anytime. I don't have to apply it now. I don't have to do it in the near future. But if I ever need to, I can do it. Can you eat grass? I don't know.
You can.
It's
called a cow.
Yes, I agree. But there are people that have tried eating grass.
Yeah.
and finding a way to make it palatable, edible, whatever else. I don't know those methods. I haven't done any research into them. So what if the only thing you have is grass? So at some point I'm going to have to look at, what about certain plants, certain ways of doing things, like acorns. There's ways of making acorns palatable,
Yes.
edible. You make acorn flour and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I've watched those. The one was Britain's Wild Foods. There were a couple other channels. And some of it is like you crush the acorns a little bit and you put them in a bag, like a Hessian bag. It's something you stick in the river for a week. And it draws the astringent out of the acorns. There's certain plants in South America where they have to keep cooking them till they destroy I think it's cyanide in it or arsenic in it or something like that. And I think it's cassava root or something like that.
Okay.
And if you don't do it the proper way, it kills you. And you have the people there that can actually smell when it's safe to eat. And you go, oh yeah, I seen the natives doing this, and I'm going to eat, and you peg. So rather learn it ahead of time.
So, with regard to other foodstuffs apart from meat, we are looking at doing a foraging episode. There is a book that I've got here called Wild About Weeds, which is written by a local lady called Nikki Brighton. She lives up in KZN. She's now released, I think, 2 books on urban fringe foraging, which is really cool. We're hoping to talk to her. I know I keep putting it off because of work, but we need to really have a conversation with her. And there's another lady in Cape Town that also does foraging that's actually got in contact with us that would like to do an episode on foraging. So foraging is definitely something we're going to be talking about. Never mind foraging for mushrooms, but just general foraging for wild edibles.
Yeah, foraging for mushrooms, I've picked mushrooms. I've got quite a few books on mushrooms. And the saying is, if there's any doubt, there's no doubt. If you don't know 100%, if there's any doubt whatsoever, you toss it.
Or what was the other saying? You can eat any type of mushroom once?
Any mushroom is edible once.
Yeah.
Or every mushroom is
edible once, at least.
Yeah. So down here, we've got a few edible types. Some of them, even the books are like a question mark. It might or might not result in something.
Yeah.
And so maybe what we should do is do a in the wild.
Oh yeah, that's
recording. Actually, go foraging.
That would be very cool.
We got the Lavelle marks. We can
go to circles in the forest and try find some fairy rings.
Maybe not mushrooms, but we'll go find other stuff. We'll have to do a bit of research first.
So I have done a little bit of wild foraging in my youth. Things like nasturtiums. You eat the flower.
And the leaves.
And the leaves, yeah. They've got a bit of the leaves have got more of a citrusy taste, like a lemony taste, where the flower's more peppery.
Now the pods, I think they call them poor man's capers.
Yes.
And so you can pickle them and
you can pickle those. I don't know who remembers those lovely weeds. We used to call them blackjacks. You used to pull the little seed pod off and throw it at each other, and it would stick to your clothes.
Yes.
Those leaves, washed and cooked, have got a bit of a spinachy kind of taste.
Nettles.
Yeah.
Morojo. There's a lot of different things you can eat. Yeah. Clovers.
South Africa has a lot of native plants that we don't generally eat because we're so used to having commercial stuff. But there's plenty of things that grow wild in urban and urban fringe and you don't have to go far into the mountains or anything to pick the stuff.
My dad's been experimenting with making preserves and pickles out of siervy. Okay. So sour fig, that's like a succulent.
Yeah, you get it a lot on the South Cape, the Cape
everywhere from like Klenkere all the way down to the coast. And I haven't tried it yet. I still need to try it.
It's very popular in the Cape, yeah.
Yeah, so I think all those type of things, when people move away from only thinking that edible foods come from Woolworths or Pick and Pay or Food Lovers, and you start experimenting. You open up a whole world around you and different flavors and stuff. And yeah, it's...
Never mind the fact that you can actually reduce your cost of living. So yeah, veggies are not as expensive as meat, but they are getting pricey. A pocket of potatoes is now... I saw a pocket of potatoes at a shop the other day for 120 Rand for a 10-kilo pocket of potatoes. I remember when we used to cry because it had gone up to 40 Rand. But if you know how to grow your own, or you know how to find plants wild, if you've got time, it is very time consuming, then there's so much more that you can then put your money and your resources towards.
And the biggest thing is if you talk to some people who look at healthy ways to live, healthy foods and stuff, is you eat stuff in season.
Yeah.
And the more you forage, the more you'll eat stuff in season, because you can't obviously find something that isn't in season. So you find oranges and you might binge them in winter, and you'll not have one in summer.
Yeah.
You know, you unless you make sauerkraut, you'll forage, in air quotes, in your garden for cabbages, and you'll eat cabbages till they come out of your ears, and then you'll have no cabbages for the rest of the year.
Yes.
Unless you preserve them.
Yeah.
And that changes their nature as well. And like sauerkraut apparently is high in vitamin C.
Okay.
So that was one way they prevented scurvy on ships. And
Okay. Sauerkraut's not something I've ever been a fan of. I'm not a fan of fermented stuff generally, but I do know that there is a lot of probiotics and that sort of thing that come with it.
I have to say that you say you're not a fan of fermented stuff.
Except for wine.
Wine, spirits, beer.
It tastes very different to cabbage. The reason they don't make cabbage beer.
Yeah, it's again a palate.
Yeah.
I grew up with many cultures in Transkei, and so you get used to a lot of different ways that your palate is challenged, and it opens up the world to you.
Yeah.
You know, when you get some people, a thing is only one way. My uncle, a few steps away from me, like up and to the side, the only way he would eat veggies is if they cooked meat in the veggies. So he ate meat, and they would have to put like a lamb chop in the pumpkin that they were cooking, and everything had like
A meaty flavor.
and that's the only way they would be able to get him to eat his veggies. You know, so because that's how he grew up, and that's what he wanted to eat. And so we look at our diet and we go, these other things taste weird. And then you get a person from any country around the world, America, that comes to us, and we think, okay, our diets are very similar, and then taste what we find normal, and they go like, that's gross. That's just weird. And especially when you watch these American guys coming to South Africa, you know, to see, and they try different foods and stuff, and some of them are like, okay, that's acceptable, and other guys are like, nope.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've tried quite a few American foods, and I find them either overly sweet or pretty bland. The South African food's got a more depth of flavor.
Yeah, for me, I'd have to go to America, because I think the range of food, I mean, what they call a proper pizza, okay, and they pull their nose up at pineapple, but I wouldn't consider that a very good pizza. It's literally a base with tomato topping and cheese on it.
Yeah,
that's like a starter pizza. That's where you start. You got to end somewhere. And then more to their south, they've got a lot more heat in their dishes and spice and that. So they've got a huge range of flavors in their country.
Yeah.
South Africa as well.
Yeah.
You know, the Durban side of things tastes completely different to the Cape side of things.
Yeah, you can't compare a mother-in-law curry to a baboti.
No. But you also can't compare a sheep braai in the Karoo to a sheep braai on the coast.
Yeah.
They're two different woods, different sheep. It's completely different. And those are two, again, similar things. They're both sheep braais. Yet there's factors that change within that. And that's not even the spices they put on. It's just what the sheep eat makes them taste differently.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've covered quite a bit to do with meat today.
Yes. Have we missed anything?
We didn't talk about freeze drying, but we've discussed that before. And I can't afford a freeze dryer, so it's fine.
So we should meet somebody who sells freeze dryers.
So Harvest Right, if you would like to sponsor us a freeze dryer. No, only kidding. But yeah, no, I don't have 120,000 Rand lying around for a desktop freeze dryer, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was looking at ways of preserving avos because my avo tree is coming in season.
Okay. Yeah.
And
you can send some my way. It's fine. I'll preserve them in my stomach for you.
Yeah, that's not quite. But we have the proper size avos, those big ones. So I think they're called butter avos or something. Yeah. And one avo takes your like whole hand full, They
look like dragon's eggs.
Yeah. And the one thing I saw in Soka was frozen avo chunks, but they use sodium metabisulfate. I don't know how. They might dip it in it to stop it browning.
Okay.
And then they flash freeze them.
Okay.
So, again, I would need to research a whole bunch into that.
Apparently, avo freezes really well.
Guacamole freezes really nicely.
Yeah.
Because you've added a little bit of acidity into it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about it getting mushy because you already mushed it.
True.
And so my wife does a guacamole and it freezes incredibly nicely.
Okay. You need to bring some. Anyway, cool. Dude, I think we've covered more than enough. Like I said earlier, we are now available on WhatsApp. That number will be in the show notes. We're on Facebook, Instagram,
and
Discord.
We'll be posting our Linktrees stuff. We've got a QR code that has it's a link to Linktree, and all our updated information is on that.
Yeah, that's actually probably the easiest way to find us is just go to the Linktree in our bios, and everything is on there.
Yeah,
so,
it's on our phones.
It's
almost
literally
on our
phones. But yeah, been awesome seeing you again, dude.
Yeah, it's been lovely.
And next weekend, when this is actually coming out, is Easter. So to those folks that celebrate Easter, happy Easter to you. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, and I think it's Passover now for the
Passover,
the Jewish people, and next week is Easter.
Yeah,
for the Christians. Yeah, and for everyone else or everybody in South Africa, it's a long weekend.
Except for me, I'm working.
Well, somebody has to keep the lights on.
No, I think I actually might have the weekend off, but not the long weekend. But yeah,
just the normal weekend.
Just the normal weekend. Yeah.
I don't know what's planned for me yet. I haven't thought that far ahead.
I'm looking forward to actually having a couple of days where I don't do anything. So yeah.
Yeah, that is nice.
Anyway, dude, it's been awesome seeing you again, and everybody else, cheers for now.
Cheers, keep well. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Off-Grid Survival. For more info and updates, feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Off-Grid Survival ZA. That's it for now. We will see you next time. And always remember, be prepared. Off-Grid Survival is a member of the South African Podcasters Guild. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and may not reflect OGS Media or the Guild's views. We aim for accuracy but cannot guarantee it. Please verify information independently. Consult professionals before acting on any advice given during these episodes. By listening, you acknowledge that we are not responsible for any damages resulting from reliance on our content. All content is provided without warranty.